Welcome back to Smiles Per Hour. We're going to talk coffee. Lots of coffee. More coffee. So let's have a bit of a talk about camp coffee. It's something that I've seen pop up recently, and it's definitely a passion for me and something I feel I can add a bit of value to the conversation. You've got instant, which quick and easy. If you get good instant, it tastes good. If you get crap instant, it tastes crap. A lot of people talk about the Aeropress. I am myself a big fan of the Aeropress. Also a big fan of the Clever Dripper, which is what I've got with me today. Both very similar in the way they work. Both filter methods, both give you good coffee. This is perfect for car camping. Personally, I think the Aeropress is also good for car camping, not for taking in the bush. It takes up too much space, too much weight, and now there is a lot of companies around doing good specialty instant. It's the way to go. This is by Flight Coffee in New Zealand. Then of course you've got good old Cowboy coffee. So I'm going to start off with Cowboy coffee, but because I'm not a complete heathen, I'm going to grind some. Now my first tip for Cowboy coffee or filter coffee, you're most likely going to be making it black, so you want it to be a coffee that's reasonably sweet, or at least with a little bit of sweetness. So go for a filter roasted coffee, not a filter grind, a filter roast. Filter roasts are designed to extract a little bit slower, so it's generally going to work a little bit better. Sort of 4 minutes to 8 minutes. I'll go through that in a moment. The second thing is doing something like a single origin coffee. So I've got a Peru, I've got one from Bali, I've also got one from India. They're going to be a little bit sweeter and generally of a better quality as well, and that's going to give you a nicer cup. But I'll show you a bit of a technique to improve upon that even further in a moment. But I'll just get some coffee ground, and I'm going to do it with barley. This has got a nice fermentation type funk to it, bit of chocolate sweetness on the finish, and some fruity notes up front. So I'm doing a ratio of 75 grams to 100 ml. Yes, you're probably not going to take scales, but that'll give you an idea at least. You want your water boiling. You can't burn coffee, it's a myth. It's not to get into that. Right, so water off the boil, and then coffee on top. Grab your spoon and just gently push all the coffee into the water. So I'm going to leave it for 3 to 4 minutes and then come back to the next step and show you what to do with it from there. So just gone 4 minutes, so I'm going to scoop off everything that's floating. By scooping all the top layer off. If you have sugar, I'd say put that into your water first before you put the coffee in. Then you're not stirring up all the fines at the bottom of your cup, all the coffee that's extracted, and that's what gives you a horrible bitterness as well, which once I get to the bottom of the cup I'll show you that. While I wait for my coffee to cool, some breakfast. But that's some damn good Cowboy coffee, if I do say so myself. I would actually go so far as saying it is not far off the Clever Dripper or Aeropress at all. If anything, it might actually be in my ratios. A really formidable brew if you're out of filters or anything like that. But yeah, the bottom of a cup of Cowboy coffee, this is what we have left. So this morning, going with the instant coffee. Spoonful, stir it in, it's no mess. So to wrap up my thoughts on camp coffee or coffee in the bush, start with the instant, which I'm actually making my way through now. Give you some pros and cons. Pros, nice and easy. Spoonful in, some water, stir it, it's done. There's no waste product that you have to pack back out. The cons, instant, and I mean a specialty instant, compare apples with apples here, is expensive. So about $2 a cup for something like that. So 40 bucks, 20 cups. But there are no other cons that I can see. You can pack it down to a smaller package and take only what you need. So Cowboy coffee, pros, you don't need a brewer, you don't need any extra gear. It makes a relatively good cup, as I mentioned, comparable to what you can do with an Aeropress with a good method. The cons are you've got waste product to pack out. It's harder to pack out that waste product tidily than with a brewer because it's not contained in a filter. So cons, you've got to carry in beans, and it's a little bit slower if you're in a major rush, but it's your cheapest option. So Aeropress Clever Dripper, I use the Clever Dripper in the offender. That is my go-to. I love it. Rinse filter paper, put some water in, put some coffee in, leave it for a couple of minutes, 3 to 4 minutes like we did with the Cowboy coffee, give it a stir, pop it over a cup and it drains. Super easy, requires no thinking. That's one of the pros. Aeropress is a little bit more complicated, can't do quite as big a cup. You'd only do 250ml with an Aeropress. Same thing, filter paper, coffee, water, and then plunge. A little bit more complicated, but barely. If you can't manage that, you don't deserve coffee. The pros are, ultimately it's going to give you the best cup. The cons, weight, space, cost. And you have to pack out your coffee grounds. As much as they're biodegradable, doesn't fit with the leave no trace principle. And coffee grounds absorb 1.2 times their own weight in water from memory. So you're actually carrying out more weight if you're a weight weenie. In terms of the Clever Dripper versus the Aeropress, they both weigh relatively the same. I can put that on screen. They both take up about as much space realistically. The plus side to the Aeropress, and this is what I recommend to everybody, Aeropress is the go-to because it's cheap, easy and really versatile if you want to get into, if you want to be a bit of a coffee geek or dabble a little bit at home. The other thing that I absolutely rate the Aeropress over everything else for is cost of consumables. So your filters are dirt cheap. Your new Aeropress comes with 350 filters, and in New Zealand it's about $10 for another 350. It costs you about 70 bucks for the unit with all the bits. The Clever Dripper is about $45 and comes with no filters, but you'll pay $20 to $24 100 for your filters. So long term it's a bit more of an expensive brewer. And on a side note, I did for a long time use the Cedar Summit X brewer. Good results, but never quite dialed it in like I would with anything else. And that brings me back with all those methods to instant, because personally I brew with a scale everywhere except for when I'm on foot or on the bike, and so I appreciate an extremely consistent coffee. So last thing to summarize, whatever beans you're using, if you're drinking it black and you want something a little bit smoother, a little less bitter, filter roasted coffee. Not filter grind, filter roasted. Filter roasted is designed for the type of brewing methods that I've talked about. And if you get something single origin, talk to your local coffee roaster rather than supermarket coffee. You'll be able to get something that's single origin, roasted for filter, and if they should even be able to recommend something to your taste. I would say if you like something chocolatey, get something from Guatemala. If you like something fruity, a little bit floral, look at something from Ethiopia. If you like something with a bit more of a citrus note, Colombia, Peru potentially, but that is getting very vague now because I'm the first to admit there's no typical flavour profile to Colombia anymore. Brazil is well known for its caramels, Brazil and hazelnut tones. So if that gives you a bit of an idea on what kind of coffee you're going to enjoy best in the bush, give it a go. Or drop some questions down in the comments if you got something coffee related and I'll give it my best. Cheers.